Fantastic. Perfect answers on that. So my next one, Steve, is actually very custom tailored around you. So you're a developer. So at heart, you're a craftsman. You're no different than, say, I am, being an electrician and really truly loving just getting out there and building stuff. And so I get how you'd feel about those things. You want to get in and start developing. So let's back up and go, why is this workflow mapping skill, why is that really so critical for a systems development team? And then Chris, definitely add in, because Chris is probably one of the best I've seen at very methodically, slowly mapping out the workflow and getting everything right, and then running down and executing very quickly.
I think there's two two major answers to that. The first is planning. Okay, so this is the non-developer in me, but planning is awesome. Pre-planning and thinking about what you're going to be doing before you start doing it, wow, it's really, really awesome. Now, the developer in me is like, no way. Let's get down to code, hands-on. We're just going to work through the problem. I think actually the workflow mapping, though, is a really good skill in the pre-planning portfolio, especially for developers, because there's a lot of hands-on to it, right? You have to get in and think about the systems, and you have to add, there's some really good skills you can add to developers, like what's the value? Where does the value lie? What parts of the workflow can we implement now to get the most value out of that small piece, and then we can test. It can really steer your development efforts in a really good direction. The other answer that has nothing to do with software is the workflow mapping piece forces you to talk to people. It forces you to, learn how to interrogate requirements. It teaches you how to, what ways of talking to certain people work and what ways of talking to other people work. That interrogation of what do you want the system to do is really challenging, and mostly because people, they have a really great idea in their head, but when it comes time to put it down on paper, that transition is really, really difficult. So it's up to the systems development team to basically, ferret out the requirements. So not only does it force them to talk to people, it really, really ups that relationship with other employees in the workplace across the entire workplace. It's not just the executive group, not just field supervision, but the whole entire organization will come in contact with your systems development team, and hopefully everybody will be better for it, the systems developers and the team as a whole.
Yeah, Steve, I would agree with that thought process. I think it done well in an organization where people are talking, it really gets you into that mindset of none of us is as smart as all of us, so that you can utilize the best knowledge within the organization talking together. And I think William Edwards Deming would say, he wouldn't say it anymore, he's passed, but one of his famous quotes is, if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, then you don't know what you're doing. And Steve, and you and I have been involved in doing workflow mapping sessions with companies, and I'm always amazed as we go through and talk about a process with different people from functional areas that think they know what the process is, and as we go through the iterations, there's so much more information that comes out. There's so many people that go, wow, I had no idea that this group was doing X and the other group was doing Y this entire time. I only knew my portion of the process. And so that increased communication is critically important, and there's got to be a group within the company that has the skill set to be able to document that for a lot of reasons, and it even spans beyond just the systems or software development effort. It's really being able to document what processes are within a company so that you can use it for training for new employees. You can use it when you're going to make changes to your process. You can kind of plan for those changes operationally as well as systems-wise. Just critically important as a skill set for a company to have, but it makes logical sense for contractors that are of that scale, that being within their systems development team to be able to document it, there's a lot of benefits for that. So.
I think, Steve, one always comes to mind for me. So Steve and I were working with a systems development team and another function in the company. They wanted something just really simple. They were a large union contractor. They were dealing with several dozen different locals and all of the reporting to all those locals. Each one's different. Each one's got different terms and different systems. And they just wanted a really simple app to go help streamline that process, because for them it was basically a full-time job for a person. So what was so funny was that the first iteration was like, oh, no, this is really simple. And I think, Steve, if I remember right, it fit on like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and it probably had like 6 boxes on it. And
yeah, that's right.
And what it really comes down to is these levels of competence. There's this term, and like at the top of the pyramid is unconscious competence. Like, it's muscle memory. You're doing so many things you don't even realize all the things that you're doing, and that's where this woman was at. She wasn't incompetent. She was phenomenally competent, but she just couldn't see all the details and the complexities. And so over a period of 4 or 5 meetings and a lot of Missouri State stuff of show me how this works and do this and do that, we kept expanding the flowchart and expanding the flowchart. Well, turns out, I think when we finished, it was 3 full-size architectural, 36-inch by 42-inch sheets of paper with the flowchart mapped out, because there was just a lot of things that were going on. Now, the programming after that went very, very quick, relatively quick, and the system worked, and it ended up cutting the workload down from a full-time job to several hours a week, which was awesome. But we could have never gotten there if it wasn't for diving into the just, you want to scratch your eyeballs out, workflow mapping type of stuff. It's not fun, but it really has to go occur, and the systems development team is a great place for that skill set to live.